Hi, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be painting with some watercolors. Eee! I haven't done it in a while and I've actually been thinking about it for quite a while that I want to do something with watercolor, but it's always such a process for me. Anyway, I found this box of Van Gogh watercolors. The horrible thing about this is that I bought it like several years ago. And I haven't even unwrapped the stuff. It's so bad. So I'm gonna do some unwrapping and color swatching, and then I'm going to paint with these. I have a little bit of a project here. So I want to draw tsubasa and some sunflowers. So I started with, can you even see this? It's so tiny. Okay, this is not the greatest, but this little sketch is the first one I did. Well, not technically the first one. We'll get to that. And then I just did some bigger pictures of focus of just tsubasa to get the feel. And then I remembered I've done this before. And then I looked through all of my sketchbooks and I found the one. This one is from 2016. It's 7 years ago, 7.5 years ago. But I found this doodle, which is tsubasa with some sunflowers. And then I remembered because I did another one and I found it at the back here. And then there's this one, including a little story. So this was sort of the inspiration for it. I did these sketches. I've done a little digital sketch, which I was intending on printing on A5, but my printer refused to print it in A5. So now I'm gonna have to do an A4 instead, which is fine. I mean, bigger is most of the time better. Gives you the ability to work on the details a bit more. So I have the digital sketch printed here. I'm probably gonna share the speed paint. We'll see what order. I'll probably do the swatching of the colors first, and then I'll get into tracing this onto watercolor paper and inking it, obviously painting with the watercolors. This is what I'm gonna do today. So I have Viking IRIS 310, which is a 50-50 cotton cellulose paper, 310 grams. So, and I'm pretty sure this little homemade thing is the same type of paper. It looks just as thick and it doesn't have any black edges, so it's definitely not like arches. So let's start with this. So this is a 24, I think. Yes, 24 pan set of Van Gogh. Pretty sure it's like a student grade type of watercolor by Royal Talens. Let me just get all of these. The tin is obviously metal. It's plein air friendly. You do get that brush, but it's plein air friendly because there is this little finger hook on the back. It has the classic wells for mixing paint. So let's go ahead and do some, oh come on, unwrapping. This one is marked with the color number. Is this one marked? Yes, so this is how you can tell what color it is. So the first two, let's see, we had Chinese white and permanent lemon yellow. The next one is Azo yellow light. Crumble. After that, we have Azo yellow deep. Pretty. We have another yellow, which is gamboge. Oh, I haven't worked with watercolor in so long. Which is sad because I have so many palettes and they're gonna last me an entire lifetime. So I really should start painting with watercolor more again. Let's see, we have our first orange, which is permanent orange. And we have vermilion, which is that very orangey red color. Okay. I'm gonna remove the paintbrush. The paintbrush it's like your classic round synthetic. It's a size 6, so I'm pretty sure that could be a good one. Next we have permanent red light. And we have permanent red deep. Oh, maybe I should have written down all these names. We have Madder Lake Deep. We're starting to get into the pinks here. And we have Quinacridone Rose, which is one of those very fuchsia pink colors, if I don't drop the stuff. And we have blues. This is Cerulean Blue Phthalo. And then we have Cobalt Blue Ultramarine. Oh, come on. There we go. Next we have Ultramarine Deep. And then we have Prussian Blue. Oops. And we have our greens. Sap green? Yes, sap green. It's like one of your most one of the standards. It's like sap green and Viridian. If your palette doesn't have sap green and Viridian, is it really a watercolor palette? I think this is permanent green. Glue is sticky. No, I remember to turn it around. And then we have Hooker's Green. Hooker's Green is also one of those really common watercolors. And Viridian. And we probably have something like yellow ochre and raw and burnt umber and what's the other one called? Sienna, raw sienna. This is yellow ochre. But yeah, those are really common too. The umber, the sienna, and yellow ochre. Let's see. So yellow ochre, burnt sienna. It's all of the earthy tones. I think sienna is the more. Maybe I shouldn't assume, but I think sienna is the more yellow one, and this is burnt umber, and that the umber is the more reddish one. Maybe I honestly don't remember. Maybe they're both yellow in tone, or I have it backwards. I probably have it backwards. You could probably fit like 26 in this one, because there's a lot of gaps between the palettes. This is sepia, or sepia? Sepia. What could the last one be? Van Dyke? Payne's Gray. It looked brown. But I think this is a really good selection. Of course, when you're getting 24 colors, you're gonna have most of what you need. Okay, so those are all the colors. Now I'm going to do some swatches. We can do it like this. onto the swatching. Is it worth it to swatch the white? Like it's Chinese white. What am I meant to do with this? Okay, how about we do a drop or two on each one of these so that we can get... I'm always fascinated by the like quinacridones and the blues because they always turn out like you can see the color even though they're very, very dark. When you add water, you can really see the color come through. So let's start with, which one was this? Yellow something. Lemon yellow? I think it was a lemon yellow. Really vibrant. I think I was a little bit cheeky with the pigment there. These feel nice. Even though it's dried, from my angle I can sort of see where the white is. I think I wasn't very generous with the water here. Okay, on to our very first blue. Oh, it's so pretty! It's so very vibrant. Could be that the pigment is just super concentrated now because I let it sit for so long, but this one is interesting because there's like, it's like there's white residue sitting on top. I think it was the, which one was it? The cobalt ultramarine. I usually find that the cobalt is a little bit white tingy or something. This brush isn't very generous with the amount of water it puts out. You really have to like squeeze it out of it. This one is a little bit granulated too, I think. It feels like it. Like that one and kind of that one. Oh no. I was trying to squeeze water out and instead it sucked the pigment straight up into the brush. That's not good. Maybe this brush isn't that great. Let's see, and then this one. Was this a green? No, it was the... Oh gosh. The last blue. The Prussian, I think. Very dark turquoisey, almost bordering green tingy. Not feeling this brush pen anymore. Oh, and now I added more water to this one. This was the sap green, I think. Let's do a new row. Why? Yeah, this one turned out. Look at that. It's sucking the pigment up into the brush. It's really annoying. That's not great. Don't think I had the problem with my other one. I don't remember what brand that was. Pentel? And this was the Viridian. Viridian is also one of those really pretty, like, gemstone colors. Okay, that's the green. Now onto the earthy tones with yellow ochre. This one is very creamy because now the brush is out of water again. And then onto the burnt sienna, maybe? I think these are also some of the more, slightly more granulated colors. Okay, and then we have this one. which was the sepia. I'm guessing it was like a grayish, oh, it's almost black, but I think it has more of a brown tint. I'll fade this one out so we can see what's actually going on it. Inside. Yeah, a little bit brownish. And then the Payne's Gray, this really pretty, slightly blue tinted, almost black kind of gray. I'll fade this one out too. Oh, so pretty. Yeah, okay. Those were all of the colors. They look good. They look really good. Now I need to get to doing some tracing so we can get to painting. As I mentioned, after doing the initial sketches on paper and then looking up the old drawings from my 2016 sketchbook, I went into Procreate and drew up my idea for this drawing. I really wanted Tsubasa to be framed by the flowers, so even though a field of sunflowers would probably be pretty even in height and size, I put some really big ones up front and smaller, taller ones in the back. I ended up drawing one flower and then making a brush out of it, so I could just like stamp it wherever I wanted the flowers to go. It saved me a whole bunch of time. Then I went over to inking, and after fighting my printer about the size of the drawing, I cannot understand why it wouldn't work. I changed the setting so many times and it still spat it out in this A4 size, and I gave up. I did not have the patience. So I ended up doing it in A4, and the paper I'm using, I think I mentioned this already, but it's Viking IRIS, and it's a 50/50 cotton cellulose paper. It's 310 grams, so it's quite thick. And this one has a very smooth grain, so I thought I could be a bit brave and try inking directly as I traced. Usually I prefer going in with pencil first and then doing the inking. It just feels safer somehow. But yeah, I went brave. I did the inking as I traced, and it actually went really well. I was a little bit worried because of the thickness of the paper. The sketch looked really blurry to me. I don't think it shows up very well in the video, but the sketch looked blurry. But when I finally turned off the light on the light table, it looked really nice. I was really happy with the result. So onto the coloring. Before I even started on the colors, I ran the entire paper under the faucet in the kitchen, just letting the excess drip off and leaving it to partially dry. I find that giving the whole thing a proper soak helps with evening out the way the colors spread. I don't know, it's just something about waterlogging the paper that just helps it not have any dry spots that can sort of mess up your coloring by pushing the colors in weird ways. So I knew I wanted to work in layers, so I started off with some very light washes of the colors for the background and allowing all of the colors sort of to bleed into each other and mix. I've seen a lot of tips about that recently, like glazing and toning your art to make it look more cohesive, like all the parts belong together. So I wanted to try something like that with this drawing. I wish I had done Tsubasa at the same time as I did the background, like giving him his color washes, but I think I was a bit scared because the tone of Tsubasa's fur is a very it's red tinted and it's very dark. So I was a little bit worried that if his fur color bled into the green of the background too much, it would turn gray. So I didn't want to risk it, so I did the colors separately. I did let the colors of the background bleed onto Tsubasa though, so I think especially his t-shirt turned out looking very good because I let all of the colors sort of mix onto it. I continued layering the colors slowly, building up the intensity, and I think I could have gone a bit more vibrant than I did, but I think a lot of my watercolor paintings has always been very pale, and I think also because it's been a while since I did watercolor, I wasn't quite brave enough to do that. I think that's the theme of today's video. I wasn't quite brave enough. I need to push myself a little bit more. Anyway, so as I slowly build up the colors here of the painting, I thought I could ramble a little bit about Tsubasa and his love for botany and some backstory, if you will. I might even read that little story from the 2016 sketchbook if I have time left over. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, one of Tsubasa's biggest hobbies is botany and gardening. That stuff comes from his mom's side of the family. Tsubasa's parents are called Kana and Kyoji, by the way, in case I mention them later. But yeah, his grandparents on his mom's side of the family run this really large flower farm and have like a plant nursery and everything. So every summer, Tsubasa would go visit them with his parents. And his favorite part were always like the super large greenhouses, and the adults would always encourage his interests. So he just naturally wanted to learn more about botany and gardening. And then after his mom passed away, there was a period of time in his early teens where he didn't visit his grandparents' farm very often, mostly because he had moved to a different city and it was quite far away and it was hard to travel. And also because his dad wasn't on the greatest terms with his in-laws. They had never really accepted Kana's choice of spouse. But yeah, even if Tsubasa didn't get to visit the farms very often, his dad always tried to sort of keep his interest in plants alive by letting him have a small garden at home. They lived in a super tiny apartment, so it was hard, but he was like planting spices and had small plants on the balcony and things like that. And Tsubasa even worked part-time in a flower shop when he was old enough to do that. So yeah, the summer after they moved again, this time to Komatsu, was the first time Tsubasa spent like a couple of weeks on the flower farm again. And it really solidified for him that this kind of work, like with gardening and plants, was something he truly, truly loved and wanted to do. He just had so much fun that summer and sort of realized how much he had missed it too. When he came back home, he spent a lot of time cultivating the garden of their house. And Kyoji, his dad, had bought that house specifically because it had such a large garden or a large yard, so that Tsubasa would have this space to sort of let his interest grow. So yeah, and that's sort of the gist of it as to why Tsubasa and flowers, though not really flowers. It's not really flowers he's into. He's more into like fruits and vegetables and that kind of thing. That's mostly what the garden at his house is about. But he's always loved his grandparents' flower farm. Yeah, I do think I have time for the story too. So how about we read that one? So just a bit of background before this. So Tsubasa moved to Komatsu, which is the city where their story takes place. He moved to Komatsu in the winter of 41. And then he had his first summer at the farm again in 42, summer 42. Then he and Tsukino started dating later that autumn, so still 2042. And then this little story bit that I wrote in the sketchbook is the next summer, so the summer of 43. I hope that wasn't too confusing. Anyway, so let's see if I can get into a reader voice. I'm super bad at this. I'm sorry. Tsukino always knew Tsubasa was into gardening and botany, but it wasn't until she had gone to visit him that summer that she really understood how much he loved it. He was spending most of the summer with his grandparents out on their farm, and had asked her to come visit if she had the time. So she did. So she took the train for a very long time and then the bus, and had to find her way from a very in the middle of nowhere bus stop she had gotten off at. It took some walking and asking for directions from a very nice lady, but soon she was upon the large flower farm. It was incredible. Fields upon fields of colorful flowers. She walked along the graveled road until she spotted an older man. "Excuse me, is this Morino Farm?" She asked to make sure she had gone to the right place. "It is," the man replied cheerfully. "Great. I'm looking for Tsubasa. Is he around?" She continued. Maybe she should have been more specific. The older man gave her a long look before breaking into the widest grin. "You're Tsukino-chan, aren't you?" he said. Yeah," Tsukino replied, a little confused. The man then quickly turned towards one of the fields at the side of the road and called out, "Tsubasa-chan! Your girlfriend is here." Tsukino looked out over the field he had called towards, and from the sunflowers a boy popped up. Tsubasa. He had his arms full of the huge yellow flowers and was wearing the most farmer boy outfit she had ever seen. Tsubasa saw her and called back. I'm so glad you made it. Oh boy. Okay, that was awkward. I'm sorry. Oh my god. I don't think I've ever read any of my stories like that before. I don't think I've ever done that before. Anyway, so that was the story that goes with all of these pictures I've drawn of Tsubasa with the sunflowers. A boy with a love for gardening and botany, inviting his girlfriend to hang out at his family's farm. I'll hand it over to Past Me for the outro, but I really had so much fun. I'm gonna leave this. It's getting dark and I'm kind of concerned for the lighting. I feel pretty done, so I'm gonna leave just like the final details. I'm gonna do like metallic jelly roll on the metallic parts and give him some eye shinies with a white one. So this was really fun. Like I was kind of dreading sitting down to do watercolor because I just know it takes time because things need to dry. But this was so fun. I wish I had done it on A5, like, because it would have been done faster if I'd done it A5. Anyway, he's so cute. Like, just like that. I do like the sunflowers though. They're so pretty. They turned out really well. All right, it is the next day and I am just gonna add some final touches. Let me just... I could continue fiddling with this, like adding more and more detail, but I'm happy with the way it looks. I like it. It was a nice first like dive back into watercolor painting. I'm still like so surprised with how fun it was. Like I was dreading sitting down to do it so much because of the time it would take, but it was so worth it. It was so fun. Anyway, I'm gonna grab jelly roller. Do I want to highlight his hair? I kind of don't. Then we have the little details here. So once the jelly roll has dried, I am just going to flatten this again because it's not, it's a little bit wobbly. The usual way I do that is that I flip it over and I cover the backside in water to avoid sort of diluting or destroying the work. And then I just tape it down to the table and let it sit until it's completely dry. And I think that's gonna be good. He turned out so cute. I'm sorry if I'm like gushing too much about my own art here, but I am surprised with how well this went. I really, really liked doing this one. I am gonna say thank you so much for watching. Oh, and I will be scanning this piece and putting it on my website so you can look at it proper. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I sure did. And you know, you can always help me out by like subscribing and liking videos and leaving comments and things like that. I appreciate all of you so very, very much. And yeah, I will see you guys in my next video. Until then, bye.